Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's going to be reviewing the new Ford Mustang Dark Horse. Before we get into this video, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to the Larry Miller Super Ford here in Salt Lake City, Utah for giving me some time with this car. I'm going to include a link to their website in the description down below so you can check out what they have currently. And then on a side note, if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. Let's get into it. Powering this is a naturally aspirated 5-liter V8 that goes through a 6-speed manual. You can also get this with Ford's 10-speed automatic transmission. Fuel economy is 14 around town and then 22 on the highway, with power outputs being a whopping 500 horsepower and then 418 pound-feet of torque. Now, some other cool things under the hood here. Obviously it says 5.0, and I love the kind of like finish there on the 5.0 lettering, or numbering rather. I don't know why I said lettering. Anyways, carbon fiber print here on the engine cover, and I love how much is exposed here. And then obviously with the brace bar, it actually says Dark Horse on it. So just a really cool display overall. And would you look at that? That's actually functional there on the hood. Now, before we move forward with this review, I do want to mention, if you want to see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post content every single day. Now, taking a look at the hood, kind of already talked about that, but actually functional. And then this car is black, so it's kind of hard to see the decal, but you do have this decal here on the hood. If you got this in like white or another, lighter paint color, it would pop out a bit more. But also, I love the body lines here on the hood. And then we've got the new gen Mustang's headlights, and I love the daytime running lights. It looks super distinctive. And then notice how this is all open here at the bottom and also down below as well. And then of course in the center, look how the horse is darker on the Dark Horse. Haha, see what I did there? Anyways, you guys can see here too. I just love the subtle details on this. And putting it all together, I think the front end of this looks absolutely fantastic. And I wasn't sold on this right here. Notice that it has like a satin finish, but seeing it in person, it actually looks really good. And look at that little light dance. That's pretty fun. Now, coming on the side here, our tire wheel setup is 255/40/19 in the front and then 275/40/19 in the rear. So slightly staggered setup. And then taking a look at the wheels themselves, again, really cool satin finish. I love how you've got blue with the brake caliper. That just contrasts very nicely to the black on this particular car. And then yes, we do have Brembo brakes, and man, those rotors are pretty big. Now notice how we got a little cut there on the fender, and then we've got the Dark Horse emblem here on the side. And then the mirror caps also have a satin finish on them. And then you guys can see the bodywork here at the bottom as well. And then the door handle actually has a different shape and feel to it compared to the previous gen Mustang. And then here is the full side view with the Dark Horse, with all the body lines and everything, especially the back end, how they've kind of changed that to somewhat resemble the Ford GT. It looks so cool. Now here's a quick look at the key fob here for the Dark Horse. You guys can see we've got our lock and unlock function. We've got the opening for the trunk, and then you got the Mustang horse there on the back, and just press it a couple times and pop it open. Ooh. So when it comes to storage space, it looks like it's pretty much the same as the previous gen Mustang. And let's see what's under here with this. Interesting. I guess you could use this as more storage, but yeah, the opening isn't the biggest, but I mean, for a sports car, it's actually pretty dang practical. And it of course has a little escape button, right, or pull tab. Now, I'm a big fan of the spoiler here on the Dark Horse. Again, satin with the finish, pretty low profile, so it's not too in your face. And then we've got the new style of taillights, which look very video game-esque. And then of course the Dark Horse there in the center. And then you can see parking sensors at the bottom. And then I love the look of the exhaust tips here on the Dark Horse, as well as the diffuser. It kind of reminds me of the GT350 a bit. So putting it all together, they made, quite a few changes with the design compared to like a, GT Mustang, but it's pretty subtle overall, which I like because it's one of those things where you're not really going to know unless you know. I mean, of course, there's the Dark Horse badges that are pretty obvious, but again, the rest of the changes are pretty subtle. So taking a look at the door panel, you can see soft touch here at the top, so you can rest your elbow up here in normal like muscle car bro fashion. You know what I'm talking about if you know what I'm talking about. Anyways, you've got some Alcantara down below, and then I love how it goes to this trim right here. That looks really cool, and then it goes into like the speaker for the sound system. It's just a cool kind of like convergence of materials. Anyways, blue right there, so you've got a little bit of a two-tone action situation. All of our window controls there with our mirror adjustments and everything, and then we do have blind spot monitoring with the mirrors. Now, normally I don't look at payload with sports cars, but I was curious as to how much this weighs. So 630 pounds of payload capacity. Gross vehicle weight rating is 4,710 pounds, which you just do some simple math. This weighs over 4,000 pounds. Now, sorry, the lighting in this shot is not great, but we do have rear seats here in the Dark Horse, so even though this is more track-oriented Mustang, it still has rear seats. And notice the blue here. You guys will see that better on the front seats, but we also have the perforated inserts there. So just a really cool look. I think they did a great job with that. And this leads us to the front Recaros. As you can see, again, you can see the inserts here with the Alcantara, and then you got the blue leather and stitching here on the outside. And when you put it all together, it just has a really cool look. The seats are manual with the adjustments, if you're wondering. And then we, of course, have our 3-pedal layout down below, and then we got all of our light controls here. And then there's more of that like blue stitching on the dash, and then this trim around right there. Now taking a look at the steering wheel, kind of interesting. So on the GT I reviewed, I think it was like perforated right here, but with the Dark Horse, it's all smooth with the texturing. Blue stitching there on the center portion. Again, look at this trim here at the bottom, it looks really cool. Again, the horse is dark in the Dark Horse. You got some controls for center stack. You got like your steering adjustment right there, and we've got adaptive cruise control with this. So again, even though it's a track focused car, it's got some nice, daily driver features. And then your regular stocks here on the back. So here's a quick look at the gauge cluster, full digital gauge cluster here in the center. You can scroll through to see different bits of information on the car with the gauge cluster. Really cool setup overall. And the next cool part is with the transmission. So when you change gears, it lets you know what gear you're in with the gauge cluster itself. And then we can also change the cluster theme. So you've got the normal, and then we've got the sport theme. It does take a second for it to load up. And we also have the track theme as well. And then you got the calm, I guess. But the one that everyone loves, of course, is the Fox body. There you go. Just has that cool analog feel to it. Now in reverse, we do have a backup camera with trajectory lines, and resolution is actually really good. We also have a zoom function right there. If you're ever going to hook, this up to a trailer or something like that, right? You're going to be towing with your Dark Horse. That's why you also have that tow line there in the center as well. Now, as for the rest of the infotainment system, first off, it's connected to the rest of the gauge cluster itself. And I really like this infotainment system. So the climate stuff is always accessible there at the bottom. So that makes that super straightforward. And overall response time with the screen is, pretty good. So you can see it loads up pretty fast. And again, this has a covering over it. So you have to remember that's going to kind of get in the way of the response a bit. But of course, the most exciting part is you press a Mustang horse button. I'll show that to you later. And this is where you have like the track app. So notice everything that you can do there. Even have the launch settings. It's a manual, so obviously you're going to be doing most of the launch control with your feet and everything. But also have all the auxiliary gauges here because you no longer have them on the dash like what the Mustang used to have. And then you have your custom mode set up here, which is pretty cool. You can customize all of that. And then you can even change the colors. So I think with the Dark Horse, we'll go with the blue, right? It's kind of the theme of it. And then also the big thing is the cluster theme right here. So you can see we've got all the different clusters that we can go through. You can obviously match the drive mode, but again, Fox body. Just set it to that and you'll never have to change it again. Around the vents, we got more of that cool trim that I like, and then you guys can see the stitching and padding continues across the dash, and then also here as well. And then I like how it says Dark Horse right there. That's pretty cool. It looks like it gives you the chassis number with it as well. But yeah, trim surrounding that, and then the top of the dash is soft touch. I will say this has a much, aside from like the plopped on screen type look, design wise I think it's a lot nicer than the previous gen Mustang right here. And then of course got a red engine stop start button, and you guys can see that's the little Mustang tab to pull up everything in the infotainment system, stability control, hazard lights, and then your favorites. And then that's kind of random that they have like performance stuff and then hazard lights, which probably makes sense, and then just like climate, and then that's kind of random. But then also volume control right there. It does have a wireless phone charging pad. Now with this particular review, I won't be able to drive this car, but once I have a chance to drive the Dark Horse, I'll obviously have impressions on that. But what I can tell you is this shifter feels a lot better, and I mean a lot better compared to what's in the GT. This has a much notchier feel to it. I actually drove my GT350 to the Ford store on purpose so I could kind of, directly remember kind of the transmission feel, because that's one of the things that's important about manuals. And yeah, I really like the feel of the shifter, and the shifter head itself looks so cool and it just has a really good feel to it. So they did a really good job with the transmission, at least from what I can tell. This of course has the interesting parking brake setup, and then you guys can see we've got some cup holder set up too, and then center console, decent storage inside. And then speaking of storage, got the glove box as well, and then no center for anything like that. Now here's a quick look at the window sticker for this Dark Horse. You guys can see premium. This is all of the standard equipment. So we do have the active valve exhaust, and that was in the performance pages where you could change the exhaust with the different modes. And then you guys can see here with the optional equipment, again 700A equipment group. But it looks like just Dark Horse appearance package. Interesting. So I guess that's separate from the Dark Horse package. And then the Recaro seats, that's another option right there. Gas guzzler tax, crazy. But anyways, you can see base MSRP $57,000, after all options $68,010. So, you know, obviously inflation's a thing, but MSRP to MSRP, this is, you know, more expensive than what the GT350 was when it was out. So I think that's kind of interesting. So that's going to cap things off for our first look at the Dark Horse. And like I said, once one of these is available for me to do a full review on, I will do that. And I do plan on doing a direct comparison with my GT350 against a Dark Horse, because I really do want to find out, like, what is the best Mustang? Like, has Ford finally won up to the GT350, or is the Dark Horse just a better Mustang GT? That's definitely something that I want to try to figure out. And again, a comparison would be a great way to figure that out. Anyways, a huge shout out and thank you to the Super Ford here in Salt Lake for giving me some time with this Dark Horse. Like I said, I'll include a link to their website in the description down below. And I think I'm going to post this video first, but another reason for you guys to subscribe is I am going to be filming an EcoBoost Mustang here at the Super Ford. They just got one in. I think it's a convertible, if I remember right. New body style Mustang. So if you're looking for an EcoBoost review, that one's also going to be up pretty soon. Anyways, I'll see you.